What's going on, everybody? This is Fry. So today I want to explain a few things about Set 2. Now we're all trying to kind of absorb the cards. It is really confusing, but I have a couple of tips that could really help you get into Set 2 effectively and build new decks effectively and really get used to the new style of play. So number one, first of all, get familiar with the cards, and the best way to get familiar with all of the new Set 2 Galactic Garden cards is simply by going into the collection. As you can see over here, just from the main screen, you click this little button down here, go into the collection, and you press this little magnifying glass where you can search for any particular term. So what we're gonna type in here is Galactic. And this will be on the plan side. We will show you all of the Galactic cards and really just become familiar with the cards. Click on them, see what they do. Even the ones, the ones you have particularly, you should know what they do, but even the ones that you don't have, you really want to know what all the cards in the game do and what which classes can possibly play which cards. That really helps you in not only just for Set 2 but in general in the game. Knowing what your opposing hero could play and how much those cards will cost will help you play against those cards and really be prepared for them. And that is actually really what separates the men from the boys in a game like this, being able to play around your opponent's cards. So you can just go through them, click on them. If you want to go to the zombie side, you can do the exact same thing. We'll go again, just type in the word Galactic and press OK, and again you just are presented with all of the new Galactic cards, and this really helps you kind of set up and try to see what's going on. The second thing I would really suggest that you type into the search bar that would help you, and this will be the second tip in terms of getting used to Set 2, is type in the word environment. Alright, so you type in the word environment and you can then see exactly. Now the way this is set up is every single class has two environments, one of which is just an uncommon, and the other one is a super rare. So the super rares are going to be less common. Typically the super rare ones are the ones that are a little bit better and a little bit less subjective. So just being able to to look and see, memorize which classes have which environments is actually really useful. You'll be able to see sort of which of the heroes, if you're going to be making a deck that focuses on environments, which heroes are going to be more adept to that. Again, of course, you can do the same thing on the plan side. It's not as easy as it looks. There you go. So you can just type in the word environment onto the plan side as well, and you see not only what the environments are, but you also see the cards that work well in environments, the ones that get buffed, the ones that affect environment, and the ones that eventually will be able to create environments, which there are a couple cards like this in the game. This card makes an environment. The suggestion I would have, now I'm obviously still testing and trying to most of the possibilities of decks I haven't even tried yet. There are so many deck possibilities. One suggestion I would give though, in the new decks that you're creating, the new Set 2 decks, is try to have at least 3 or 4 environments in your deck. The reason is that even if the environments don't particularly help that deck, you want a way of dealing with your opponent's environment. Now the way that you remove an opponent's environment is simply by placing one of your environments on top of it into that same lane. You are able to do that, so that not only will give you an environment to your advantage, will more importantly remove your opponent's one off the board. The environments really are a little bit overpowered, and the way that the PopCap, the way that they've made them that they're more balanced is just the fact that they can be simply removed by your opponent placing one of their environment cards on top of it. So I would suggest you put at least 3 or 4 environments, and this will also help you get familiar with the environments, what their strengths are, and some of them can be really can be extremely useful. I will be trying basically in every single deck that I do, having at least a couple of environment cards in them. The third tip that I want to give you, just in terms of getting this game kind of straight now that Set 2 has come out, is which legendaries are good and which legendaries are not so good. We're gonna again just type in the word Galactic, and we're gonna spell it correctly. Give that man some spelling. Galactic, legendary, just to make things really clear. and this will pull up all the legendary cards. Now, every single class has been given 2 legendary cards, and typically one of them is just a card with good stats. It's a useful card to put in a deck. It could increase the quality of your deck just because it's kind of like intrinsically good, and the other one is a game changer. The other legendary is able to totally change the strategy of the deck. It creates a totally new way of winning the game. And in general, the ones you want to really concentrate on are the ones that are the game changers and not the ones that are just the ones with good stats. I'm going to go through all the legendaries now and explain exactly which one is the game changer and which one is the one that's just a useful card or a card with good stats to have in your deck. So for the Guardian class, again, I only have one of each of these legendaries, but in my opinion, I believe the Pecanolith is the one that is the game changer. This changes the whole way you can really win this. It's like a win condition card. You make it a nut deck, and you can really pack on so much damage if you can play the Pecanolith at a good time. Now, the Bodyguard, even though it also could have uses, sometimes you really could base a deck maybe on Bodyguard that really involves you needing to block a lot and really accumulate your little superpowers in your hand. But usually this is just going to be a complementary card. It's going to maybe be able to lead up to a bigger and greater thing. It'll be able to protect you. So, and that's my opinion. Now we have in the Kabloomy class, it happens to be, by the way, you're going to actually be seeing me play a lot more powerful plant decks at the beginning, because on the plant side, I've actually acquired what is, in my opinion, all the good legendaries, the real game changers, and I really don't have that many of the ones that are kind of just complementary cards and not that great. On the zombie side, it was exactly the opposite. I got a lot of the cards that were just cards that are good stats, etc., but the game changing legendaries, I have almost none of them, so I'm really waiting to get some of those on the zombie side. And in the meantime, you're definitely going to be seeing me play a lot more really powerful plant decks at first. On the Kabloomy side, again, Reincarnation. This is a card with good stats. While in your hand, at the end of your turn, it transforms to a random plant. It gets +1/+1. So this is a very powerful one-drop card, but this is not going to change the game. This is not going to, you're not going to win by playing Reincarnation. Every once in a while, this will help you with your tempo and it will lead to bigger and greater things, but it's not like a game changer. Now, Molocale, on the other hand, this is a totally new strategy that adds to a deck, particularly combined with Pine Clone. You can build up Pine Clone, then put a Molocale on top of that, and that's usually all you need in order to win. Definitely a game-changing card, and this is, I was fortunate to get a whole bunch of copies of this in my first few packs. Now, going to the Mega Go class, Captain Cucumber, again, maybe you can make a deck that is a conjure deck and you take advantage of it, but basically, this is a card that will draw you nice cards. You're not going to win the game from Captain Cucumber. You'll maybe win the game if you get lucky and draw other legendaries from Captain Cucumber, but the Onion Ring, on the other hand, is an absolute game changer. When played, each plant in your hand becomes 4/4. So this is I'm actually going to be putting out a video soon with Onion Rings. This is basically creates a whole new strategy for a deck that you basically control. Try to hoard as many cards in your hands as possible. On turn 5, play Onion Rings, cheap cards of course, in your hands as possible. Turn 5, play Onion Rings, and then all of those cheap cards plus they get 4 attack and 4 health, and you just play them all on the board. Totally new strategy. For the Smarty, it's a little bit ambiguous which is the good one and which is not. In my opinion, actually, ironically, it's going to be the one with the good stats that's actually going to be the more of the game changer. I believe the Dark Matter Dragon Fruit. I only have one copy of this, so I have not been able to test extensively, but something tells me that ramping up, let's say with Rose, and then being able to play Dark Matter Dragon Fruit, or basically having a control decks with the Smarty class, which the Smarty is actually becoming pretty good at controlling, and then being able to play this right on turn 8. This is really going to be the game-changing card. This really does have potential, the Shooting Star Fruit. I don't think this is as good as the Dragon Fruit. It does attack in all 5 lanes. Sometimes you could try to buff this up with other cards, with Lily of the Valley, etc. It is a very, very hard card to pull off, because if your opponent leaves 1 brain, chances are they're actually going to be able to remove the Shooting Star Fruit, but I'm really going to have to test in order to really determine that. Moving on to the Solar class, the Estravocado. The Estravocado is the one, again, it's a card with good stats. It does 5 damage strike through, and you get these little Estravocado, it's not Estravocado, it's Astrocado pits in your hand, and that can turn into another Astrocado. You really have to have good ways of protecting your Astrocado pit. Usually it'll just be removed easily. One idea I did have is with Rose is to play the Astrocado Pit on turn 7 with a Banana, and that will really prevent your opponent from removing off the board, and they'll just turn again and again into the Astrocado. Nonetheless, even though there are some strategies and this could be a really powerful card, this is not a game changer. It's just a powerful card. This doesn't make a totally new way of winning. Maybe someday we'll make an Astrocado deck. It's going to be really, really hard to pull off. But the Astro Vera, on the other hand, which is the other solar legendary, this is an absolute game changer. This makes healing decks into top tier decks. Especially if you have Artichoke, which is a new card. It's just a rare that it's a 4-cost card, and whenever you heal yourself, it'll damage your opponent. So Astro Vera to combine with that card is just a totally new way of winning. Astro Vera also really opens up the whole control class for the solar. Especially if you're trying to ramp up to Great Zucchini or Cornucopia or something like that. The Astro Vera is such a great card just to play on turn 8. It is so hard for your opponent to deplete your health by turn 10 if you are playing this on turn 8. We're going to go to the zombie side. I'm just going to explain each one again, which one is the good card, the card with the good stats, and which is the one that is that's the game changer. So let's just go right into it here. These two I'm actually really not sure in the beastie class. These kind of both seem like they're not an absolute game changer. I don't see a new strategy coming out from Interstellar Bounty Hunter. Again, Hunt has good stats. You draw a card every single time you destroy a zombie. This one also. I think this is going to be more impactful on the meta when a Gargantuar destroys the plant, throw copies of that plant, because this will be maybe an answer to Pine Clone or some mushroom decks or things like this. It happens to be, I really wish the beastie class would have gotten a really, really heavy buff, since it probably was the weakest weakest class in set 1, and I don't see either of these being good. I think this one's a little bit more useful, and then this one's a little bit more kind of game changing. I'm really not so sure. It's very possible that once I start testing these cards, I'll definitely be able to find out which one is really the good one, which one is not. Now when it comes to the Brainy class, you can see I have 4 copies of the Interdimensional Zombie. Now this is a good card, it has great stats. If you put this in a Science deck, play a Science card on turn 2. It happens to be that your turn 1 play just turns right into a random 3-cost zombie, which is a really, really great value. This is good stats with a card, but again, it's just a tempo card. It's not going to change the way this game is played. It's not going to make you win. On the other hand, the other one, which as you can see I have 0 copies of so far, the Teleportation Zombie. 2 cost is a Gravestone Bullseye. You can play zombies when it's time for tricks. This is an absolute game changer. You can make new zoo decks with small cards, and you're just going to be throwing them on the board during the trick stage, which is so powerful. The fact this is a Gravestone, really, in my opinion, makes it better. This is going to totally change. We're going to be making a lot of decks that really rely heavily on the Teleportation Zombie. You can really even hold on to the Teleportation Zombie until a little bit later, and then just play a very particular combos of 1 and 2 cost cards since you can play them during the trick stage, there's nothing you can do about it, and really knock down your opponent really, really quickly, basically all in one turn doing that. We're going to move on to the Crazy class. So again, the one that is not as good is the Quasar. Even though I love the Quasar, it gives you a superpower. It's just a useful card that's powerful. It gives you these superpowers, which are very often very, very useful in terms of just the tempo of the game. But again, you're not going to win you're not going to make a Quasar deck. There's no such thing. You're not going to win the game with this card. On the other hand, the one, of course, which I have no copies of, is Binary Stars. Gravestone, all of your cards do double damage. There are going to be so many decks that are based on Binary Stars, OTK decks where you basically kill them all, and it really relies on you getting your double damage out. There are so many combinations. This is a game changer. I cannot wait to get that card in. It's really going to open up the Crazy class for us to make some really powerful decks. In the Hardy class, it happens to be that even though this card, I really ranted about this when I reviewed all the cards, the Zombot Battle Cruiser 5000. This is again just a card with good stats. It actually is slightly less useful as I've been testing it than I thought, just because it is a Gravestone, so it's subject to Gravebuster, and it is, a 6-cost card. It doesn't protect your minions until it pops out of the Gravestone, so your minions can still be removed while sitting in that Gravestone. So that makes it slightly less useful, but it is a card card with great stats, but it is not a game changer. Every once in a while you can make a deck that's based on this and you combine it with mix of Gravedigger, but I've actually tried that a bunch of times and it's hard to pull off. I believe it is this card over here, the Warlord, the Intergalactic Warlord. This is the one that creates a totally new strategy for zoo decks, particularly when you have a bunch of cheap cards for the Hardy class. When played the rest of the game, all of your zombies get +1/+1. This will be very similar strategy to the Onion Rings. You basically can control or swarm the board, actually, because it does affect zombies on the board. You play Intergalactic Warlord, and then the game just gets worse and worse for your opponent, especially if you have several Intergalactic Warlords. You can actually play them, and I believe they will stack. So your cards just become so powerful that you can really take over the game. There's nothing your opponent can do with it. Absolutely a game changer. So moving to the sneaky class, I actually only have one sneaky legendary so far. The Cryo Yeti, I believe, is the one with good stats. Again, it starts off as a 5/6 as long as there's a plant on the field. You know, the stats of this don't even seem that great. Every once in a while you can make a freeze deck, but it's pretty late to then start saying, okay, I'm Brain Freeze or I'm going to use Frozen Mustaches. There really are not a lot of freezing cards in the game to be able to complement this. It seems like it's going to be a card with decent stats, but the one that's going to be the game changer, of course, and this might be the best legendary in the game, who even knows, is Space Cowboy. This is Amphibious Strike Through. The zombie moves to the right whenever it hurts the plant hero, so it's basically going to attack, then it moves to the next lane and attacks there, and it moves to the next lane and attacks a whole bunch of times. Making decks that just rely on this as a win condition, either teleporting this in or, you know, buffing it up so it actually gets more than just 3 attack. This is just going to be an amazing, totally new way of winning. You can win just with Space Cowboy sometimes. This will definitely be creating, you know, miracle decks where you're basically just stalling for time, then you slap this guy and maybe a couple other cards on the board and create a combo which is totally unstoppable. This is going to be the one. I can't wait to get a few copies of the Space Cowboy. Alright guys, I hope that you enjoyed. Those are some tips and tricks for set 2 and a little bit of review of the legendaries. So I hope that you enjoyed. Peace and subscribe.